In this video, I want to talk about image masking in Photoshop. Masking refers to a number of techniques that are used in order to hide portions of an image or a layer. Now let's look at different techniques that are used for masking in Photoshop. In this video, I'm going to cover two techniques for masking in Photoshop. So let's start by talking about the first one. The first technique of masking actually uses what is known as a layer mask. So let's start by learning about layer mask. As you can see in this image, I have two layers. One is the background layer with the image of the car, and then we have the text layer. So what I would like to do here is to hide portions of this text layer so that it seems that it is actually behind the car. So let's see how we can do that. The first thing that I should do is to add a layer mask to the text layer. To do this, first of all, I will make sure that I have selected the text layer, and then I will come here and click on this button, Add Layer Mask. And as soon as I do that, as you can see, a layer mask is added to my text layer. The layer mask allows you to hide portions of the layer that it is assigned to. And you can do this by using the brush tool and painting over those areas. So let me show you how this can be done. So right now I have selected the brush tool and I have selected the black color for the color of my brush. I explain to you later why I have selected black. And now I go over to the text layer here and I start to draw and paint. So as you can see, as soon as I do that, these portions of the image is actually being hidden. Now let me explain why I have selected the black color for the brush. If you look at the thumbnail of the layer mask on the layers panel, you probably see a small black area on the layer mask. And that black area is exactly what I have drawn and painted using the brush on the text layer. So as you can see, the area that I have painted in black is actually invisible now. So on a layer mask, black actually means invisible and white means visible. So if I want, I can actually go ahead and change the color of the brush to white and then go to, let's say, the hidden part of the E letter here and make part of it visible again. So let's do that. So I've selected the brush tool, the color of the brush is white, and now I just start to draw here with the brush tool. And as you can see, with the use of the brush tool, I now make the previously hidden part of the letter E visible. Now let me go ahead and mask parts of the P letter and the E letter as well. So as you can see, I do the same thing using the black color and just using the brush tool to mask these portions of the P letter. And we can do the same thing with the letter E. Let me just maybe make the text layer a bit transparent so I can see exactly where I am drawing and painting. So as you can see, I'm just using the brush tool and very quickly I mask these parts of the E letter. Now I have finished masking these parts of the text layer. And as you can see now, it seems that the text layer is actually behind the car. But if you want, we can be a bit more accurate and make this part of the letter E visible, because we should be able to see that part through the window. But I suppose that the color of this part should not be as strong as this part of the letter E, because we are looking at it through the window. You have previously seen that on a layer mask, black color means invisible and white color means visible. But what you should know is that you can also select different ranges of gray colors between black and white. The level of the gray color or the shade of the gray actually defines the strength or the opacity of the layer mask. That means that the whiter the gray, the more visible your main layer will be. So I select a gray color closer to the white color, and then I go to the image and I start drawing, as you can see. So as you can see now, those parts of the letter E that were invisible before are becoming visible. But if you pay attention, the color of this part is not actually as strong as this part. And the reason is because we have selected a gray color for the brush tool instead of white. So let me just go ahead and do the same thing over here. So we have the parts of the letter that can be visible through the window, visible to the viewer, and now it's actually done. You may say that this could easily be done using the eraser tool. We could actually erase these parts of the text layer and we could get the same result. That is absolutely right, but what we should note is that the layer mask is a non-destructive technique of masking, and that means that we actually haven't changed the original text layer and we can always go back to it whenever we want. So if I go to the layer mask and if I right click over it, I will be able to disable the layer mask. And as I do that, you will see that there will be a red cross over the layer mask, and that indicates that the layer mask is disactive now. And on the image, you will see that we now see the original text layer. I can simply go back to the layer mask by enabling it using the by right-clicking and then clicking on Enable Layer Mask. But if you want, you can also right-click over the layer mask and delete the layer mask. And if I do that, as you can see now, we have the original text layer and the layer mask is no longer there. So using the layer mask, which is a non-destructive technique, you can always go back to the original layer that you have. Now let's look at another masking technique in Photoshop, which is called clipping mask. Clipping masks use one layer to determine the visibility of another layer. So let's say, for example, that I would like to use the text layer here to determine the visibility of the image layer that I have here. To do this, I'll bring the text layer below the image layer, and then I right-click over the image layer and select Create Clipping Mask. And as soon as I do that, as you can see, the image changes, and now the text layer actually determines the visibility of the image layer. I have imported two other images into Photoshop, and I would like to do the same thing with these images. So I would like to control the visibility of these two images with the text layer that I have here. So I do the same thing, right-click over the layers and click on Create Clipping Mask. As you can see, as soon as I do that, the visibility of those layers will be controlled by the text layer. If you pay attention to the left side of the thumbnail of these layers in the layers panel, you will see that all of them has this arrow, and that means that these layers are actually assigned to the text layer, or their visibility is controlled by the text layer. So the layer mask And the clipping masks are two useful techniques that you can use in Photoshop in order to mask different layers.